Well, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is traveling to Moscow on Wednesday, and U.S. officials say the visit is aimed at urging Russia to rethink its support for the Syrian government of President Bashar al-Assad. Tillerson's trip to the Russian capital comes only days after the U.S. launched missile strikes on a Syrian airbase in response to a Syrian chemical weapons attack that killed at least 100 civilians. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, says the U.S. has not ruled out more military action against Syrian targets. Here's VOA's Michael Bowman.
Is President Donald Trump contemplating regime change in Syria? U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley says President Assad is a stumbling block to a political solution in Syria's civil war. But America's top diplomat suggests removing Assad could be risky.
We've seen what that looks like when you undertake a violent regime change in Libya. And the situation in Libya continues to be very chaotic, and I would argue that the life of the Libyan people is not all that well off today.
While the United States acted to prevent further slaughter of Syrian civilians, Tillerson says America's main goal is unchanged.
Our priority is first the defeat of ISIS. This strike was related solely to the most recent horrific use of chemical weapons against women, children, and as the president said, even small babies.
Former President Barack Obama also tried to keep the focus on rooting out Islamic State. Critics in Congress say the strategy is misguided.
This idea that we're going to get rid of ISIS and then we'll hopefully use Assad and others to come up with a solution, it's not going to work. As long as Assad is there, you're going to have a radical jihadist Sunni element.
Trump did not mention Syria in his weekly address, but did restate his intention to reassert American influence on the world stage.
Providing security for the American people also means restoring America's standing in the world. In matters both economic and military, we understand that a strong America is in the best interests of the world.
If the president orders further military action in Syria, calls for congressional authorization will grow.
I don't think this president should have taken that strike without congressional approval. Congress has itself to blame here. We sat on our hands for years. I've introduced an authorization use force. I couldn't get a single vote on it.
Amid local reports that Syrian warplanes resumed flights from the base targeted in Friday's cruise missile attack, Trump tweeted an explanation for not targeting the facility's runways, saying they are, quote, easy and inexpensive to quickly fix. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Well, for more insight on the U.S. strategy and options against Syria, joining me from the Pentagon is VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb. Carla, now we know that we're hearing a lot of different messages about Syria from administration officials. UN ambassador calls Assad a stumbling block, and Secretary of State Tillerson says ISIS is the priority here. Can you please sort out these things for us?
Well, I think what we are hearing is two sides of the same message. The UN ambassador, Haley, she wanted to make clear that the Trump administration can do more against President Assad if needed and would do more if needed. But for now, this is very clear that this was a one-off strike as a direct result of the use of chemical weapons on civilians. But let's be clear, no one here at the Pentagon is patting themselves on the back, congratulating themselves for that one strike against the Syrian airfield. The war is still going on in Syria. They are still fighting Islamic State militants, and if anything, this has complicated that fight. You can look at the strike releases for the past couple of days, and while there were still 18 strikes in Syria today by the U.S.-led coalition, the numbers over the past few days have been down. And I was talking to a U.S. official with a group of reporters earlier, and he said that yes, General Townsend, the ground commander in Iraq and Syria, did reposition some of his resources for force protection. That is the implication, of course, is if the Russians or if the Syrians decide to do a counterstrike on U.S. Forces in Syria, they wanted to be ready. I actually asked that official, Colonel John Thomas, who's a Central Command spokesman, I asked him, I said, well, does that mean that some U.S. troops came out of Syria? And he wouldn't give me an answer. He said, we don't talk about where our troops are at any given time, but clearly this is not just as simple as some officials have said it potentially could be.
Now, Carla, you've been reporting over the last few days that officials are investigating whether Russia was involved in some way in the chemical strike there in Syria. What can you tell us about that up to this point?
Well, this is just another example of the complications. U.S. officials had been telling reporters that what they saw during the chemical weapons attack, they saw the Syrian aircraft strike in that town near Idlib. After that strike, they saw a UAV, a drone, come in and observe the area and saw some of the civilians going to get treatment in a hospital. They won't say whether that drone was Syrian or Russian. That's what they're investigating right now. And then about 5 hours after that drone showed up looking at what was going on after the chemical attack, they said that there were aircraft that came in and shot the hospital. They don't know exactly why they targeted civilians in that hospital, but the senior military officials told reporters near me that it seems that this could be an attempt to cover up some of the evidence of a chemical weapons attack. We do know that there is chemical expertise that the Russians have in Syria. What we also know is there was a Russian aviation unit in that base. So I think in the coming days we're going to be seeing what's going to come out of the intel community on Russia's role in this strike.
Thank you, Carla. As always, excellent reporting there. That's a VOA Pentagon correspondent, Carla Babb, coming to us live from the Pentagon. Now